This is Wade Major along with...
Mark Kaiser.
Mark, it's been a bad few days for the movies.
It has. Well, you know what? It's funny because I almost went on Facebook, which I never do, and I was going to actually invite people to come with me to go see Dark Knight Rises, which I'd already seen.
Yeah.
But that was my way of saying you should not be afraid to go to the movies just because there's one whack job out of 300 million who decides to do what he does. It shouldn't keep people from going to the movies. And I was going to actually invite a bunch of friends to go with me to see Dark Knight Rises as a stick it to the jerk gesture.
I like that.
Thank you.
I like that. You know, it's a strange thing. I was scheduled to be on Film Week this last week with Peter Rayner on Friday. KPCC, locally here in Los Angeles, gets carried by other NPR stations somewhere. And it was Thursday night, and I was doing my usual pre-film week cram, since I never have time to actually watch the movies we're going to talk about. I usually pull an all-nighter and go in bleary-eyed, having watched something like 6 movies in a row. And so we only had 9 movies this last week, so I was watching Harakiri, Death of a Samurai, the new Takashi Miike film, which is a remake of the original Harakiri, which is on Criterion, was on Criterion Blu-ray last year. So I'm watching the Takashi Miike remake. Finished it up around 1:30 in the morning, whatever it was, and thought not bad, pretty good, compares pretty well to the original. And then I was getting ready to throw this independent Hindi language film on at 2 in the morning, and I checked my email and saw the breaking news. Hit the mic appropriately. Saw the breaking news about the shooting, and I thought, great. And I fired an email off to the producer of Film Week, and I said, how exactly are we going to handle this now? Because this changes everything, and did not expect him to be up at 2 in the morning. But next morning, I'm on my way to Pasadena, middle of the freeway, and he calls and says, you know what? The whole show has changed. We're not going to be reviewing any movies. We're just going to be talking about Dark Knight, and it's going to be continuing the previous hour of Air Talk and taking calls, and just be ready for that. And which, of course, I think on some level was a relief. I got there, and Peter Rayner was certainly of the right mind as well. And it was a sobering hour with the callers and whatnot. But I think the thing that was consistent was everybody felt exactly as you just said, which is, you know what, movies are a communal experience. And this is an individual who, for whatever reasons, mental illness, anger, whatever it is, was lashing out at the communal experience. Someone who was lonely, someone who was alone, isolated, separated from humanity, totally off on that isolated, emotionally chilled fringe, and was lashing out at people who, for some reason, he was angry at, that were happier than he, had more fulfilled lives than he, were able to go out into the world and socialize in ways that he couldn't. And I think if you let that slide, and if you just say, screw it, I'm just going to watch streaming from now on, then it's just, more and more of us in gated communities, more and more of us staying home, more and more of us isolating ourselves in exactly the way that creates this kind of dysfunction.
Really, the terrorists win.
Exactly. They do. And, this is as much terrorism as any other act of terrorism.
That is true.
It is. So don't stop going to the movies. What makes the movies great, what makes cinema great, we forget, is not just the art of the movie itself. If there's no one to watch it, there's no cinema. If it's just a movie being projected on a screen somewhere in a house or in a dark room with no one watching it, it's not cinema. You need to have strangers sitting in the dark together, is sharing that experience for it to really be what cinema was designed to be. And don't lose that part of it. When you participate in the watching of the movie, you are 50% of the equation.
That's true. And don't forget, the movie still made $160 million. Yeah. So I think that a very, very, very small amount of people actually said, you know what, I'm scared for myself, I'm scared for my family, I'm not going to go to the movies. I think that wound up being a very, very small percentage.
Absolutely.
Which is the way it should be.
Absolutely. And frankly, it's like after 9/11. I mean, there was no safer time to fly than once the planes got back in the air after 9/11. And I don't think there's any safer time to go to the movies than right now.
Although I'll tell you this, I flew to New York on October 11th.
Mm-hmm.
I got to New York 1 month to the day after 9/11, and it really is true. Like when I was sitting in the airport terminal it was October 10th, an overnight flight that would arrive on October 11th, 2001. You really did look at people, and you were like, "What's he wearing? He's got I don't like his hair. What's he all about?"
Yeah,
you really did think that. But you really can't do that in movie theaters, though. It's ridiculous. It's a joy. The thing is that movies are a joyful experience. Flying is not a joyful experience. Flying is a chore.
The thing that saddens me, you and I were fortunate enough to see the film several days earlier. What did we see? Wednesday? Was it Wednesday? Tuesday.
It was Tuesday.
It was Tuesday. So we saw it 3 days earlier, and we went in and we saw it, and it was The Dark Knight Rises. It was the end of the trilogy, and I think now most people who are going to see the movie now are seeing it in the wake of the tragedy, and they're going to see the film through that prism. And with time, that'll eventually fade. But I think that's unfortunate too. Is that it now the film is automatically tainted by that association. And this isn't the first time. Look, I mean, movies, violent actions being associated with movies is something that's been a part of the last 30 years, ever since John Hinckley tried to shoot Reagan and basically said he was inspired by Taxi Driver. The Columbine guys paying tribute to The Matrix, and on and on and on. We could even go back to the 70s, Clockwork Orange, and the murders in the UK. But crazy people don't do crazy things because movies inspire them. They're looking for an excuse, and they're looking for something to polish off their twisted sense of self-gratification. And movies are as good as an excuse.
That is true, especially if you want to kill a lot of people. You want to go where the people are, and obviously this guy he's obviously mentally ill. Nobody kills 12 people and is not mentally ill. It's impossible.
And could have been so much more. Could have been so many more people.
And so obviously the motive was his own mental stability.
Yeah.
And the opportunity was presented by the movie. If it wasn't that movie, it would have been something else.
So the moral to this is go out, see the movies, enjoy yourself, and make friends, and have your children make friends, and just don't let the crazy people change the world. Mark, you know what? We've let television slide for a few weeks. We should jump into some television.
We never let television slide ever. There's never a week where we don't do television.
We've let some television slide. The last couple of weeks has been a lot piling up. I'll tell you.
That's fine.
You know what? I'm gonna let you here. First of all, that new Sarah Polley film. I went and saw it. Had to talk about that on the radio a few weeks ago. And Sarah Silverman is in it, all of her, naked. And Sarah Silverman has nothing to be ashamed of. But I feel, Mark, I feel wrong now that I actually know what Sarah Silverman looks like in a state of undress. And I'm not sure why I feel wrong that way.
Well, the thing is that there's one thing to say, Sarah Silverman is an attractive woman, especially for stand-up. She's very attractive. But that doesn't mean when you see them naked, there's still a sense of TMI.
Yeah. That's it. Maybe it's just comics shouldn't be naked. I don't want to see Louis C.K. naked.
Very few. You know what?
I want to see Louis Black naked.
I watched an episode of Louis.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple, and I like them. I think they're good. And in this episode, Louis goes to the beach in Miami and takes his shirt off because he's swimming in the ocean.
That's bad news.
I had no idea he was actually that fat.
Oh yeah,
because because the way the T-shirt wraps around his gigantic torso.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He looks maybe a little.
Yeah.
A little zoftig, but he doesn't look huge. He takes his shirt off in this episode. The man's gigantic.
Well, that being said, as much as I am now somewhat scarred by the knowledge of what Sarah Silverman looks like naked, we can talk about the Sarah Silverman program, the complete series. 7 DVDs, 3 seasons.
Although I don't like this, this particular presentation is kind of lame because what they did was they just pretty much took they took all the the season DVDs and put them out onto one box set. I mean, there are 3 from Paramount, 1 from Shout. And they just, in Comedy Central, just wrapped them up in a box and said, here it is. So they're not remastered, they're not remixed, they're doing nothing new.
It's everything that was previously released inside an additional special bonus custom collector's edition cardboard box.
Yes, that is true. Bonus features, there's an interview with the producers. There's the cast and crew at the 2007 Comic-Con, 2007 seeming about 400 years ago. And there's the original pilot, which I always like, because you sort of get to compare the vision for the show at the outset versus where the show wound up. This is the complete series. This is 32 episodes. There is some funny stuff in here. Brian Posehn, who I work with on The Man Show, is very funny here. And it's got a good cast. And obviously it's got a lot of adult language and situations, so this is not a kid show. But it's definitely one for those who have a very twisted sense of humor. And you know who you are.
Mark, when Star Trek The Next Generation came out on DVD, was a big deal. You remember the packaging? Those big.
It was the worst.
Those big custom.
No, I hated those.
Silver, like weirdly, strangely opening things that folded open. I mean, there was Digipack, but it was like a custom Digipack that folded 7 or 8 or 9 or 12 or 15 times. And
yeah, there's a name for that. It's called GD annoying. Those were horrible.
Those big silver things. And they were monstrosities, and they came with a ton of discs, and they were very, very difficult to navigate. Truly, it was as if you wanted to just access one disc from a season, to put that into your DVD player. In order to actually find that disc, you needed to pretty much have the full floor space of a high school gymnasium to roll this thing open on to track that disc down.
There was a time, and the same thing goes for the early seasons of The Simpsons DVD, when the plastic was molded into the shapes of the heads of the characters.
That was the worst.
Where it's just terrible. Stop it.
Well, Star Trek The Next Generation now is beginning to be released on Blu-ray.
Yay.
We have Season 1 here on Blu-ray.
Boo. Season 1 was lame. Great Blu-ray presentation, great audio, great video, great extras. Season itself, lame.
It's a perfectly ordinary Blu-ray keep case, multi-disc keep case. So they've obviously thrown the towel in on any kind of crazy presentation. But that being said, they've also really kind of tried to burnish this thing. Now, I find the 1080p here a little bit lacking, and I think it's because this show was not shot HD. This was at least it was not shot widescreen.
Well, that's true, but
like later shows were shot. This is still 133.
Yeah, but if you look at Data's makeup. There's like a bit of shine to his facial makeup that you didn't really see when you saw it on TV.
Yeah,
and they've also redid all the graphics. They redid the graphics.
Everything has been redone and polished. And while it's perfectly fine, and I'm not opposed to this, and certainly it's preferable to, in almost every conceivable way, to watching it in SD. I mean, if you put the SD in, and you watch that on, even upconverted on an HD set through your Blu-ray player. This still looks better and is more enjoyable, and the sound is better. It's a lot better. The sound is a lot richer. They really
it's lossless too. Lossless
beautiful
audio.
Really great audio. Like the audio is really the most compelling thing about this. But still, I don't know that polishing this up the way they did was necessarily the best thing to do.
What? You're on your mind.
No, maybe. But
it's
anyway.
great. I mean, here's the thing. And this Season 1 Blu-ray looks great. Imagine successive seasons when now you're getting into the early 90s, a little bit into the mid-90s.
Well, we were joking before that, after we get this first season out of the way, Riker gets a beard, everybody else gets collars, and Wesley Crusher gets lost, and then we're good.
Now we got a show.
So that's kind of how it is. But, you have tons and tons and tons of new material on here. So this isn't just kind of cleaning up the episodes and then pumping it out onto Blu-ray with all the same previous extras. Lots of new interviews and new featurette stuff. Nothing really earth-shattering. It's just new for the sake of being new. And, you kind of get a little bit of a sense of nostalgia here that you didn't necessarily get the first time around because it's been a while. And
I don't know that these Season 1 and part of Season 2 episodes even really hold up. I know that successive seasons hold up a lot.
Yes,
but I think that the early ones don't really hold up. They did a bunch of episodes that were based on episodes of the previous series.
We were joking about that, like The Naked Now.
Like The Naked Now.
We were making a joke about the gamesters of Quad Scallion.
Exactly. It was just...
Let this be your last... Warfield?
But don't forget too. Really, almost every, except for the original,
all our day before yesterdays.
No, it's for the world is hollow and I have touched the ground.
There you go.
Pretty much every except for the original series, every Star Trek incarnation was always better the less Roddenberry had to do with it.
It's
kind of true.
It started to get to that point. Yeah,
it really did.
Yeah. Anyway.
Because, like, Roddenberry's like, nobody argues in the future. So okay, what's the conflict? The conflict can't just be with the aliens. You have to have conflict amongst the crew.
He did sort of start to get a little bit too obsessed with the philosophical meanderings of what the future will really be, as opposed to just let the stories kind of play themselves out.
And him, thank God he never.
That's why they changed the uniforms in Star Trek: The Motion Picture. He said, no, in the future you're not really going to be weaving suits. They're going to look like they're sprayed on.
That's
We're going
ridiculous.
to spray our clothing on.
That's just
I
horrible.
mean, he had his little obsessions.
Yes, he did.
Touched by an Angel, the 5th season. I know. All of you who've been sitting on that 4th season for the longest time from Paramount, you've been thinking, what am I going to do? The 5th season isn't out. And, well, here it is. You can be appeased. The 5th season of this long-running and, in my opinion, well, sweet but overrated show because it's all pretty much the same every episode. Somebody's got a problem, and the Angels got to somehow set things right in the world. It's a very sweet show. A lot of people watch this with their kids. It's family friendly. You know, there's no nudity or shooting or no Law and Order sexual molestation and all that horrible dark stuff. There's none of those TNT shows where it's just TNT really, those shows push the envelope. They really do.
Well, the thing is that they have to because they can't be exactly what HBO and Showtime shows are.
But there's language on
there.
there.
Yet they can't be as pablum as the network shows are.
But it's commercial television. It's theoretically under the auspices of the FCC in many respects, and yet they swear on those shows like, well, they swear like a word
like hell,
like a word they would say on those shows. Anyway, so here's the 5th season. It's perfectly acceptable. It's not earth-shattering in any degree. There's no extras. It's just Roma Downey and Della Reese and the usual crew just doing their thing.
Lame. The end. Boss is a Starz original show starring Kelsey Grammer as the mayor of Chicago, and his name is Kane. Not to be confused with Citizen Kane. And he's obviously running a corrupt city, and his daughter's on drugs, and his wife hates him, all that sort of stuff. So, those who think that Kelsey Grammer is all about Cheers will be very surprised at how good he is here on this show. In fact, he won a Golden Globe for his performance in the show. And Boss Season 1 is now on Blu-ray. This is a good-looking show. It's very bright colors and dark black, so it looks very good. Obviously, it's a brand new show. The pilot was directed by Gus Van Sant.
I'm thrilled that he, excuse me, I am thrilled that Kelsey has like a whole new show and a new persona, and because he did Frasier forever, not just on Frasier, but on Cheers and then Frasier. I mean, it's like he lived that character for more years than anything he will ever do ever again. And
he becomes synonymous with that. So you have to give him, you have to applaud him for wanting to do a 180.
And a really nice guy. He opened the he opened the car door for my wife. He did.
Yeah, because he probably wanted to hit on her.
No, we were coming out of Chipotle, and they were parked next to us, and we were getting takeout, and they were getting takeout, and he was just incredibly nice and a total gentleman. And after that, my wife's like, you know what? I'm a fan. Right then and there. He was like some kind of chivalrous knight in shining armor type guy.
You know why? He has a show to plug.
Yeah,
that's why.
True.
Anyway, so Boss is really not bad. In season 1, it looks good, sounds good. It's a good show.
Bonanza, the official 3rd season value pack. Mark, the official 3rd season value pack.
Oh, this is terrible. Who's going to buy this?
You know what? This is another Paramount thing, and they're finally getting the message about these, part 1 and part 2 of various seasons. And I find this interesting because it's basically the 3rd season, part 1 and part 2, all wrapped up in one complete deal. And this is interesting to me because clearly the message got through. This isn't just a marketing thing. It is people are pissed off about having to buy seasons in halves. And good for you, even though you should have just put this out into one complete set and not have it eat 2 halves in one shrink-wrapped thing. Good for you. You got the message. That being said, look, 3rd season of Bonanza, it's great television. And I think some of the earlier seasons of Bonanza really are still among the best. It feels fresh. It feels big. It feels epic in a way that a lot of television today just does not. It's shot on film, and it's colorful, and you really, look, people ride horses. And doggone it, I really like Hoss. But as a stand-up comic said some time back, which I find to be true, the premise of the show, with Lorne Greene, this is a guy who has 3 sons, all of them by different women, and they all die. This guy's the kiss of death.
He really is.
He's like,
and plus
why would you want to marry this guy?
Well,
you're going to die.
First of all, he's ugly. He's Lorne Greene.
Does he kill them and bury them somewhere in the Ponderosa?
That'd be awesome.
Is that the new Ponderosa? Like
yes.
Dallas, we're going to resurrect it and find out that Pa Cartwright was some kind of a weird like wife-killing psychopath, and that their bodies are. Yeah, that's what it's going to happen, isn't it?
I feel a movie.
Yep.
A movie will happen.
I'm totally into it. I'll write it.
Oh, you know what I'm not into? There's 2 shows on Sci-Fi that I just never really got into, although people do love it. One is Eureka, and the other is Alphas. The only reason why I can recommend these shows is because each one features 2 terrific movie character actors, and I'm glad they're getting work. One is Joe Morton, who appears in Eureka, Season 5 on Blu-ray, and the second one is David Strathairn, who is in Season 1 of Alphas, which is on DVD also. Eureka is actually canceled. There was a rumor that they were going to go for a shortened 6th season, but actually they're canceling after 5. And this scene kind of limped along. It had a bit of a cult following. And, they did a whole bunch of episodes. It premiered in 2006. And it's about this crazy town where, accidental or maybe sometimes intentional mischief happens. And it's very creative, and it's got a fun little sense of humor, but I just felt it never came together from a character standpoint. I can see maybe someday you throw these guys $25 million and make a movie, they see what happens, almost like what Joss Whedon did with Firefly. But as for Eureka Season 5, it's not on Blu-ray, so forget that, but also not a big fan of the show. Alphas is definitely more network quality in terms of how it looks, and it's all about these extraordinary people named Alphas. They have like these quirks in their brain that gives them superhuman powers. So it's a bit superhero-ish, although really they're just sort of like regular people that happen to have crazy things they can do. This Season 1 DVD contains deleted scenes, a panel discussion from Comic-Con 2011, and a extended version of the premiere. This show really isn't that bad. Again, it's network quality. It's got a decent cast. Wade, you will love the fact that even Lindsay Wagner appeared in Season 1.
Oh, yeah.
And Brent Spiner also appeared in Season 1.
He's a friend of producer Mike's. I still haven't figured out how that works.
No, because Mike's fiancée,
Kat.
Yes, she appears in on an original.
Are they formally engaged?
Yes.
They are?
Yes.
Okay, good.
She appears on.
How long has that been?
Like 2 months or something.
Oh, good.
She appears on an original internet show that he stars in.
Okay.
So that's why she knows him.
Got it.
So now
they
all know each other.
It's all in the family.
All in the family.
All in the family.
Anyway, Alpha's better than Eureka. The Glades is an A&E show that has somehow lasted 2 seasons. I don't really know how this thing has lasted 2 seasons. It's about this Chicago detective, and he goes to South Florida. Now he uses his tough guy sarcastic humor to deal with all the crazy people in Florida. This is just another one of those fish out of water sort of shows where a guy's used to doing things one way, and then he goes to another town and he's got to do things another way, and there's a lot of conflict and I just think this show is kind of silly. From what I saw of it, I was really not engaged with the characters. It seemed very formulaic, and I'm not a big fan. So, if you like this, if you like the show, though, Season 2 is on DVD. It includes a couple of deleted scenes, a couple of featurettes, 4 discs, 13 episodes, and there you go. The Glades.
Fantabulastic. Also from Paramount, as long as they're releasing halves of shows in the same day, we've got The Untouchables, Season 4, Volumes 1 and 2, both being released right now. Now, they did not send this to us in a value pack, so I'm going to assume that you can get them separately or as a single pack. I don't know why anyone would ever get them separately. Really, I think they're, just nuts to still keep packaging them this way, but at least they're releasing them on the same day. And The Untouchables, of course, stars Robert Stack as Elliot Ness, the character that Kevin Costner would later play.
When are they coming out with the Blu-ray of the movie?
I don't know.
Come on, the movie's great.
That's the Chicago way.
Oh, it's great.
Well, anyway, this was not such a bad series, and based on Ness's own writings and memoirs, and I think it stretches a little bit. By the time you get to Season 4, you kind of get the drill, and you know where it's going, and you realize it's going to pretty much be the same thing every week. But it continued to be a very high-quality show with a great cast, well-made, and you know what? It's just one of those shows from the early 60s that kind of still resonates a little bit. I think maybe more today.
It's a cool show.
It is a cool show.
It's kind of held up. I mean, nowadays, with cable and pay TV, the language and I just don't mean verbal language, the language used to tell these sorts of stories has really increased. You have more violence,
Very
you can be
true.
way more edgy. So Untouchables has none of that, but just from a storytelling standpoint and just like from a cool, almost noir-y standpoint, it's a good show.
We also have a couple of sitcoms from the collaboration between Shout Factory and Sony. Sony basically has these Columbia shows that are vintage sitcoms, and they don't really want to do anything with them, so they let Shout Factory go out with them. Diff'rent Strokes and Designing Women. This is the final season of Designing Women and the third season of Diff'rent Strokes. Let me talk for a second about Diff'rent Strokes. Man, this I can't laugh. First of all, I never laughed at this show to begin with. I always thought it was just horrible. It was just the most embarrassing comedy ever, where you watch it and you're embarrassed for the actors that they have to say and do the things that they're doing.
I used to watch that show.
But it was embarrassing,
It's
wasn't
pretty
it?
terrible.
You get goosebumps and your hair stands on end.
It
And
doesn't hold up.
you feel like they're standing naked in public and you're standing naked with them. It's
Let's
it's an awful feeling.
relax there.
But even beyond all that, I just can't laugh at this show because it's just such a tragic train wreck. You just look at that and you go, okay, Dana Plato, that is just a horrible life catastrophe that she went through. I mean, from starring on a show to then just being like this homeless single mom on drugs trying to hold up liquor stores and then eventually dying. It just, are you kidding me? I mean, that is just a life implosion.
Well, it's funny. Tomorrow,
And then, Gary Coleman, for crying out loud. I mean, he was almost broke as well, and that was just a horrible. I mean, it's just like this show is cursed, and Todd Bridges with his problems. At least he's still alive.
tomorrow I'm meeting. I'm going to meet Joey Lawrence.
Yeah.
And Joey Lawrence is a child actor who who made it through. I mean, the guy who was on Dancing with the Stars
Give me a
couple
break.
seasons. Give me a break. But he was on. I mean, he's still vibrant.
Yes, he is.
He's on Dancing with the Stars.
It's because he was not on this show.
That's correct.
So anyway, this is the third season, and this thing ran for 8 seasons. So we got 5 more seasons to come, which means 5 more shows where I will talk about how depressing this show is. The final season of Designing Women, of course, features Jan Hooks, who stepped into that cast at a late stage, along with Judith Ivey, who also stepped into the cast later on. And it's not better off for it. I like Jan Hooks and Judith Ivey just fine, but by the time you're plugging and playing different actresses in this cast, and the only original cast members are Annie Potts and Dixie Carter, it's kind of depressing. So if you're a completist, by all means get it, but there's no extras on here, nothing that makes this compelling on its own. It's just strictly for completists. And that being said, you're probably going to get a complete series box set for the holidays this year anyway. So factor all of that into your decision.
Yeah, Wade.
And then lastly, as far as the vintage shows in this little streak go, we have a thing from Warner Brothers called Harry O, the complete first season. A lot of people don't know who David Jansen is, was, ever will be, or why they should care. But you know what? Harry O was a pretty cool detective show back in its day. And I had not been a really big fan of it at the time. This ran in the early 1970s. And, it just felt like another one of those grungy, scruffy detective shows that there were a whole bunch of them. Like, it felt like another Mannix. And I thought, well, we already have a Mannix, and, it looks like Mannix crossed with Kojak or something. And I was more into Starsky and Hutch, Guys were a little more cool. They wore tennis shoes. They ran. They, a little more active. Beretta, who would eventually go on to kill his wife. But, you look at this in retrospect, and David Jansen is a hell of an actor. I mean, he really is. He's just one of those Steve McQueenie kind of grizzled guys who just makes it so real. And I kind of feel gypped that I didn't experience this show at the time. So anyway, this is 6 discs, 22 episodes from the first season. And you know who shows up here? I mean, it's a great cavalcade of guest stars, like all just classic 70s people. Martin Sheen, real young. Cab Calloway before he died. But you know who one of the baddies is here?
As opposed to Cab Calloway after he died?
Yes, exactly. Anthony Zerbe.
Anthony Zerbe, that guy has been around forever. My God, he won't die. Hang on a second. I'm going to wiki that guy right now. IMDb, Anthony Zerbe. Not only was Anthony Zerbe in The Omega Man, which is the first time I remember Anthony Zerbe in The Omega Man.
Yeah.
But he's also in one of the Star Trek films. He was born in
Had to be like 1930s.
1936.
Yeah.
So what does that make him?
That makes him like,
1,000 years old?
76 or something.
Does he have a Wikipedia page? Yes, he does. He is 76 years old. You know what? Actually, nowadays, at 76, he's got stuff. He's got stuff left in him. Look, he was in the Matrix Reload. He was in the last 2 Matrix films. Like, every time you see him, you just think B-movie cheese. It's almost like seeing John Gavin in a movie. When you saw John Gavin in a movie, you knew it was just lame.
Yeah.
Like, he's just B-movie.
Wings Hauser?
Oh, he is the worst. Wings Hauser? But Wings Hauser never really had much of a career.
No.
Whereas Anthony Zerbe, I mean, in the 70s and whatever, 60s, he did a lot of great work. But anyway, he was in Naked City and he did a lot of great TV. Big Valley, Route 66, It Takes a Thief, Hawaii Five-0, Kung Fu. He was one of those guys, Little House on the Prairie. Anyway, why are we talking about Anthony Zerbe?
I don't know, because we love him.
Who's talking now, Wade?
It's your turn. You can.
Okay.
You can indulge your talk show expertise.
Well, I'm not going to do that. What I will do is I will say that a must-rent, if not a must-buy, you can just rent it. I think renting it is fine, is Johnny Carson, King of Late Night. This is a PBS special where the filmmakers got unprecedented access to Johnny's friends and family and personal archives. And Johnny Carson obviously was the Tonight Show host for 30 years, over 4,500 shows. He hosted The Tonight Show for 4,531 shows. Wade.
That's amazing. It
now,
really is.
Now, it's really hard for people who are younger. It's hard to give a parallel to the influence and the longevity of Johnny Carson. The fact is that for a good chunk of his tenure, from 1962 to 1992, he was on every weeknight. I mean, literally, people would go to bed watching his monologue.
Carson was, he became an icon of everyone's life, and it wasn't just the show. It was who he was just in general. He was kind of like he let steam out of our consciences. You know what I mean? He modulated the public discussion, whatever the topic, because he was really the first guy to take the topics of the news and really just shred it. I mean, even before the news on Saturday Night Live or even most other topical comics, he did it in a way that the average person, you certainly had people like Carlin and others who were doing it in a very counterculture way, but Johnny Carson was the first person that said, don't take these guys so seriously.
Well, also, as a talk show host, as a talk show interviewer, nobody did it like him, because he did the one thing that talk show hosts refuse to do, which is they have to realize that if the guest looks good, they look good too. Yeah. Most talk show hosts, and a lot of times it's that way because they're comics, because they're stand-up comics who become like Roseanne was a talk show host, Ellen is a talk show host, Rosie O'Donnell a talk show host. A lot of these guys are former comics. Comics think it's all about them. Yeah. Their stand-up act, their one-man show, and so they just want to be the one to get the joke in. Yep. But what Carson realized is that his job was to make the guest look good. Yep. And if the guest looks good, he looks good. True. And that's what including Leno. I mean, Leno's the worst. Leno's not a very good interviewer. No, not at all. But Carson was a great talk show interviewer. He did it the right way and did it for a long time, and it is hard to imagine how influential he was. And Johnny Carson, King of Late Night, if you know Johnny Carson, is an indispensable look at warts and all, by the way, because Johnny Carson was a kind of a womanizer. Oh. He was married 4 times. He cheated a lot. So didn't they all have the same name? Weren't they all? There was a couple of them had the same name. Joanna. They were all Joanna. Joanna. Joannina, Joannine, Joan. The Toto song Joanna is based on. Exactly. No, it's not. No. Anyway, it's a great documentary. It really is. If you have any passing knowledge of Johnny Carson, you must watch it. We got a trio from the whole A&E History Channel empire over here. And these are all these reality shows that drive a lot of people crazy. And the first one is an A&E Volume 3 set for Storage Wars. Oh, just stop it. Come on. How about Garbage Dumpster Wars? How about just homeless people who go through garbage dumpsters? how about cubicle people? Just like a guy who sits in a cubicle at a car rental office, and he just sits there and plays solitaire until someone comes in. That's it. That's a show. I mean, stop it. I mean, isn't it better just to repeat a good show than to put on a bad show like Storage Wars? When will it end? Take it up with A&E, not me. Exactly. Storage Wars, basically, it's a show about people who sort of, every once in a while there are these storage compartments at storage facilities which they just auction off the stuff. Sounds like a show. Yeah. So these are people who basically make their living doing eBay type stuff. They go, they bid on what's in these storage containers, and it's a bunch of junk. They're basically it's Sanford Arms. What do you want? It has a following. I don't really understand why, but there it is. American Pickers, Volume 3. Stop it! Come on. You know what I do? This is what I do for a living. I wash dishes. And I sit there. You know what? People give me their grimed up dishes, and I clean them. and I got a show now.
Well,
12 episodes.
This is more,
1 hour each. 1 hour, 12 episodes.
This is kind of.
I sit there and I wash dishes. Sometimes some of the dishes I wash, sometimes it's like a lot of caked in grime. Like they ate the food and then they sat for an hour and they just sort of chatted and the food was kind of caked in on the plate. That takes a while. That's dramatic. I remember a couple episodes of the show. There was actually a 2-part episode where at the end of the first part they would give me a plate that had like lasagna really baked in on it, and then they would say, coming up next time on Dishwashers, you'll see whether I can get all the lasagna out. It's exciting. It's exciting stuff, man.
You realize that's going to happen, and you're going to have to sue them. And this show will become evidence in court. It'll become court's evidence. American Pickers, basically the same deal. There's just all kinds of junk, except it's rural junk as opposed to urban junk. And people pick through barns and junk piles and whatever else. Don't shoot the messenger. Slightly more engaging is the latest season of IRT on DVD. IRT Deadliest Roads Season 2, The Andes. This kind of takes off from the whole dirtiest jobs thing that they've been doing, which is let's go and explore the strange things that people do, not dishwashing. And you know what? If you drive these trucks, you're crazy. I'm sure they get paid really well, but at this point, it's just you look at this and you think, really, truly, if that's the only way that you can get this stuff from point A to point B, then make the people that you're delivering to, make them move. Just make them move. They need to go to where the stuff is. You don't need to be bringing the stuff to them. It's just too dangerous and it's crazy. And it really kind of brings home how many parts of the world, how many places in the world really badly need better roads. I'm just saying.
Wade, we're really hitting the dregs of TV time here. We have the 4th season of Sanctuary. Now, Sanctuary is one of those weird inbred like Dr. Pepper black licorice shows. It's like seem like a real thing, but actually it's not. And that can only mean one thing, Wade, that the show is from Canada.
Uh-huh.
That explains why it feels like actual television minus one chromosome. There's like one chromosome missing that would keep this from looking like actual television. It's Canadian. Anyway, it's about this. It takes place in the year 6000 or something, and there's this very hot because people are still hot in the future. People in the future, they are all hot and attractive. They're all handsome guys, and they're all beautiful brunettes. That's how it works in the future.
Yep.
There's this doctor, and her job is to sort of collect or gather together all of these people who have strange abilities and powers from all these different areas and different planets. And she runs an organization called Sanctuary that gets them all together. And that's what this is about. This show's terrible. You know what? I don't blame sci-fi for wanting to just make a cheap buy. Yeah, there's this Canadian show. We can get 12 episodes for X number of dollars per episode and throw it out there, see what happens. I don't blame them for doing that, but half of their primetime lineup is these Canadian shows. I just don't get it. Anyway, there's a couple of bonus features here, making of featurettes, audio commentary. It's a good-looking show, not as good-looking as some of their American counterparts. But there you go, Sanctuary Season 4. Also, we have the kind of cutesy Leverage Season 4. This is on TNT. I kind of like this show only because I like when they kind of get into how they do the con. I always like that kind of stuff. I mean, this is not exactly the Sting, but I kind of like the Mission Impossible-y figuring out of what the plan is going to be. Mm-hmm. And of course, it gives Timothy Hutton work, and you can't beat that. So Leverage, not so bad.
Love Timothy Hutton.
Yeah, that's true. Special features include on this DVD, not Blu-ray, behind the scenes crap, deleted scenes, gag reel, Writer's Room. There's a featurette on the Writer's Room, which is kind of interesting.
Groovy.
You don't see that kind of stuff on DVDs. Writer's Room.
Not at all. Got a couple of sitcoms here. Real quickly.
Hey, Wade.
Yeah.
How much stuff can you talk about while I get my laundry?
Oh, I'll do my best. Do it. You do it.
I'm going to get my laundry.
You do that.
Okay, here we go.
You do that. Here we go. Okay, Mark's getting his laundry. So
By the way, I really am getting my laundry.
Such a professional show. Tyler Perry's Meet the Browns, Season 6, episodes 101 through 120. I don't know why they do that. I don't know. We've joked about this before, that they'd give you the numbers of the episodes as if anyone out there is saying, I don't remember what season it was, but I do remember it was episode 107. So that must mean it was in season 6. I come on, people, really, it's a very strange thing to do. But anyway, Lionsgate's out there, this 3-disc set with no special features whatsoever, except just the 6th season of Tyler Perry's Meet the Browns, which is an incredibly mediocre show with a so-so cast. So don't expect anything to change after the first 5 seasons. We also have a terrific combo pack, Blu-ray, DVD, and Ultraviolet for the complete first season and the complete second season of The Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory obviously has really struck a chord. This has been...
Lame.
You don't like The Big Bang Theory?
No.
Okay, Mark doesn't like The Big Bang Theory. The idea, it's sort of like Three's Company with tech nerds. And I that's really the only way to describe it. And nerds seem to respond to the show. I find it interestingly well written to some degree. It certainly has Chuck Lorre's fingers all over it. It has that 2.5 Men-y kind of thing going. It's except it's missing a certain ingredient of cool.
You know what people don't realize is that I know that like nerds have taken over the earth. By the way, I got my laundry. I know that people think that nerds have taken over the earth with Comic-Con and whatnot. But you know what the tragedy is? When we were growing up, if you were a nerd, you got beaten up.
Yeah.
Being a nerd was not cool. Being a nerd got you beaten up, got you ostracized. You were a loner, couldn't get girls. That's what a nerd was.
I know.
Back when nerd culture was first born.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a nerd, you're like the coolest guy ever. People cater to your needs and wants.
Strange. Well, anyway, Big Bang Theory, first couple of seasons now on combo packs. You know what? No overriding reason for this to be on Blu-ray per se. I mean, it looks fine, but if you're watching it on DVD, you're not necessarily going to need to upgrade. It's a 3-camera sitcom, for crying out loud. It's not that substantially better on Blu-ray that, unless you get it at a bargain price, is going to make much of a difference. Father Dowling Mysteries, the second season. Nobody remembers this show.
Bosley.
Tom Bosley, along with Tracy Nelson, who is the nun.
Tracy Morgan's the nun?
Tracy Nelson, who, of course, is, Ricky Nelson's daughter. She was... what happened to her? She's gone nowhere. Anyway... but you know what? It's a decent show. It's kind of in that whodunit thing that was going on in the 80s and 90s, and very much around Murder, She Wrote, and there were a few other shows that were kind of whodunit procedurals in that English style, except they were done CBS style, and they were all sort of for older audiences, and this is one of them. And it's no different than the others. You got some promos on here from the original season itself, the second season, but nothing else. So Father Dowling Mysteries, if you're kind of a buff for procedurals, you can check it out, but it's nothing special.
Wade, a show that I really want to like, but somehow I can't, is Falling Skies. This is from executive producer Steven Spielberg, which means that he probably read one draft of the pilot and then said, "Where's my money?" and he's never seen it since. Probably what that means.
Yep.
This is a show. It's on TNT. It's a DreamWorks production, hence the Spielberg connection. And Noah Wyle stars as this professor who joins the Massachusetts militia, which are a group of citizens and freedom fighters who are fleeing an alien attack in Boston. It's very well shot. It's a good-looking show, and it's got some very exciting passages to it. And so it's entertaining. It's sort of limped along. It hasn't really been doing all that well, but it did wind up getting a second season, which I'm kind of surprised at. But anyway, it's good. It's really not bad. If you like dystopian sci-fi, and of course Wade and I grew up on dystopian post-apocalyptic sci-fi, we love this stuff. It's not bad. There's better stuff. It's not bad. So there are some good special features on this, including a couple that are exclusive to the Blu-ray, specifically something about the Dark Horse comic that this thing is based on. And so anyway, it's good stuff. You know what? It's one of the screenwriters is Robert Rodat, who wrote Saving Private Ryan, and Graham Yost, of course, who wrote Speed. So there's good people behind it. I don't know that they're doing the best work here, but the show definitely has moments. And Noah Wiley's definitely fine, although I think they could have used more of a movie star lead actor as opposed to Noah Wiley. But anyway, it's kind of a mixed bag, but it's not that bad. We were talking about sci-fi stuff before, and we have yet another sci-fi show that just will not go away, Warehouse 13. This is another sci-fi show that you're kind of does anyone really watch this? Does anyone really go, "Oh my God, it's Warehouse 13, I love you. Oh my God, it's Eureka, I love you." I just don't know that there's people like that in the world.
No.
Anyway,
really.
It's kind of a dramatic comedy. It's It stars that guy from Unforgiven who's been in everything. You know, what's his name? Saul Rubinek.
Oh,
Saul Rubinek
has
been in everything.
He was even in Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
He's super cool.
Yeah.
Actually, he's not super cool. He's kind of annoying.
And he essentially plays Joel Silver in
Star Wars.
No, in
Star Wars,
the Tarantino thing.
Jackie Brown.
No. The one that Tony Scott, Tarantino.
Star Wars. True Romance.
True Romance. Thank you.
Anyway. Anyway,
Thank
there's this, the premise of the show is that there's this secret government warehouse called Warehouse 13 where
they sell tapes and
supernatural
CDs.
like artifacts and extraterrestrial crap is all stored.
I used to buy records at the warehouse.
So did I. You know what the warehouse's slogan was? The warehouse, wall to wall, fun for all.
Licorice Pizza.
Was it Licorice Pizzas?
No.
I remember I used to go to Licorice. I remember I went to the Licorice Pizza on Wilshire and Westgate. I remember once. In fact, I still have this.
Music Plus.
Believe in us for Music Plus.
They're all bankrupt. They're all gone.
I know.
Tower
Licorice
Records.
Pizza.
None left.
I stood in line for over an hour so that Madness could sign my cassette tape.
There you go.
Remember Madness, our house, in the middle of our street.
You still have that?
Yeah, I do actually.
There you go.
Awesome.
A bunch of British television I'll blow through real quickly. The Inbetweeners, the complete series, which means it's only 18 episodes. About 4 guys in the UK, and they are raunchy, and they are nerdy, and they go to high school. And for some reason, this thing's been turned into a feature film. It's coming out in September, and meanwhile, you can go and you can watch all of their British bawdiness in the complete series of the Inbetweeners. And there it is. It's funny, but I don't know why it would be turned into a feature film. Then we also have 2 more Blu-ray double sets of the Sharpe series, that Napoleonic era thing that stars Sean Bean as the great fighting man Sharpe. We've got Sharpe's Honor and Sharpe's Gold on one Blu-ray, and Sharpe's Battle and Sharpe's Sword on the other. Certainly for the limited budget they had, they did a great recreation of Napoleonic clashes and intrigue and drama. These things are, not beautifully shot, so there's a little bit lacking that kind of pops out on the Blu-ray. But you know what? It's worth it.
Are there any movies?
Yeah,
why are we not talking about movies?
Because there's like no good movies this week. It's like
you called me on the way over here.
Yeah.
And you said, there's a lot of great stuff this week.
There is.
Not saying it.
Okay. Sorry. Never mind. M.R. James is casting the runes. This is from Acorn, and you know what? If you've read it, if you've read any of M.R. James's fantasy tales, his kind of fantasy horror stuff, you will be enthralled. If not, you won't know what the hell this is, and there's no point in talking about it. Midsomer Murders. My gosh, set 20. You know what? Same damn thing. For the last 19, same damn thing. 4 more mysteries here, and they're still good, but it blows my mind that this thing's been around for 20 years. People just must love the characters. I don't know. Midsomer Murders. I'm not going to say anything else about it because it's the same damn thing. And George Gently, Series 4. This is another one of those really cool British detective shows set in the 1960s. So there's a real cool groove to it. Real hip, man. Real groovy. And this is 2 mysteries. And they are feature-length mysteries, and that's always cool when they do that in the UK. They give you, they don't just do a 1-hour mystery, and which really comes out to about 52 minutes after or 48 minutes once you cut in commercials. No, these are like little movies, and they really they pay attention to it, and we don't do that here. So if you're a fan of George Gently, that's a good one. That's Series 4. All right, Mark, that's it for television.
Yay!
Done.
Let's do movies.
All right, movies.
I like movies.
You know what? I'm telling you, Mark, it's a slow week for movies. We got Institute Benjamenta here. See what I mean? I'm telling you. You
Don't
asked
start
for
with
it.
that.
You asked for it. Well, I mean, it's the Brothers Quay, or the Brothers K, or however you pronounce it. Brothers Quay are a couple of twins who make really weird movies. They're kind of like in the same wheelhouse as Guy Maddin and David Lynch. Fair enough to say?
I like them both. I like both Guy Maddin and David Lynch, so ergo...
You like the Brothers Quay. They started off doing a lot of funky animation, mostly influenced by Czech animation, and then they took this to another level in 1995 with Institute Benjamenta, and you know what? It's weird and quirky and black and white and eccentric and disturbing and all of those things that you would normally expect from all of the filmmakers that I just described. Probably a little bit of Cronenberg in there you could throw in too, but you know, there it is. It's well, Terry Gilliam's a big fan of theirs. Actually, he's quoted on the packaging. He calls this the most visually beautiful and hauntingly humorous film I have seen in the last 300 years. That's Terry.
300?
Yeah, that's what he says. That's what he says. Anyway, but you can tell that these guys basically come from an animation background because everything is staged and shot and given that meticulous arrangement, the framing that you would have if you're an animator. You know, you want to control the frame to such a tremendous degree. But you know, ultimately, it's basically a really, really twisted, weird melodrama. And I don't really, you know, I'll tell you, it's going to creep you out. But that's from Zeitgeist. It comes in eco packaging. Institute Benjamenta. There it is.
Wade, poor Elizabeth Olsen. First thing she does is she comes out with the breathtaking debut with Martha Marcy May Marlene. And then what's her next film? It's going to be good, right? Her next film's going to really go over the top.
Yeah,
no,
really.
It's Silent House.
Yeah.
Silent House is a film by these two directors. And the deal with Silent House is that it was supposedly all shot in one take. Now, it's a suspense film about this girl who is trapped inside her family's lake house. And it's very ominous and crazy things are happening. Now, for me, when they say this is one take, I'm not sure this is like Russian Ark, like one take. Because Russian Ark is like one take. This, I am going to guarantee you, was done in multiple takes that were seamlessly edited together.
Of course.
With effects to make it look like one take.
Sure.
It was not one take. Guarantee it. Film not very good. I mean, I guess it's a gimmick. If I were you, I would not watch this because we don't want to enable Elizabeth Olsen, who looks like she could be the real thing, to do more movies like Silent House. Instead, you should rent Martha Marcy May Marlene.
I agree.
Is that better? Wade.
We've got a couple of criterions here. They
Yay.
are, well, yay,
Yay?
but, well...
Boo?
No, not boo. I mean, it's Whit Stillman, Mark.
His last movie was so bad. You saw that, right?
No, I didn't. You went and saw it, and then you guys came out of it and were just so...
You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, that was the reaction to it, and I was like, okay, not going to go to see that one. The Last Days of Disco and Metropolitan. Now, Metropolitan is the film that put him on the map, and it got an Oscar nomination for screenplay, and everybody's like, oh, this guy's such a fresh new voice. Oh, he's amazing, this Whit Stillman guy. And then really his movies have just kind of really never lived up to that ever since. They're talky. They're about yuppies who sit around and they talk about intellectual and somewhat entertainingly amusing things, and they toss around clever little witticisms and use words that no one uses unless you've gone to an Ivy League school and learned to read scripts. And I don't know. I never really totally connected with his style of writing. It just feels too written, too rehearsed, too hoity-toity. And that's a weird thing for me to say because normally I respond to that stuff. Anyway, Metropolitan's from 1990, and it is a perfectly acceptable Blu-ray. These films are not cinematic achievements on a staggering visual level. So they're really all about the dialogue, and so you don't expect this to be sort of the shining Blu-ray in your collection. If you're a Metropolitan fan, you'll love it. If you're a Whit Stillman fan, you'll love it. But really, this is when he peaked. Extras are very threadbare on Metropolitan. They include an audio commentary that's with Stillman and his editor and a couple of the actors. Some outtakes also with commentary and the obligatory essay, while you get a few more extras on The Last Days of Disco, which I like on some level just because Kate Beckinsale is in it, and I really like Kate Beckinsale, but I still don't feel like Kate Beckinsale is... where she's the best thing in an otherwise mediocre movie. I mean, I enjoy her, but I don't really enjoy anything else.
We all enjoy Kate Beckinsale.
We really do. Anyway, this also has...
You realize that Kate Beckinsale is married to that Tool director.
I know.
Len Wiseman.
And she's in all of his movies.
Including Total Recall.
I know. It's just embarrassing. Anyway, also an audio commentary here with Stillman and a couple of the actors, including Chloe Sevigny. Some deleted scenes, again with commentary, featurette, stills gallery, and Whit's reading from a book of his. Last Days of Disco should have been so much better. It took place in the 1980s, literally in the last days of disco. But disco isn't really much of a factor in this thing. I mean, there's only stuff where Kate Beckinsale talks about, people from the 70s. They don't dance. But otherwise, it's not like, I mean, really? Go watch Saturday Night Fever.
His stuff is, it's just very twee and very mannered and very Upper East Side and not everybody's taste.
Not really mine. But there it is. It's, it gets the Criterion treatment, which sort of validates it on some level, I guess.
You know what else is not my taste? Break with Stephen Dorff. Now, Stephen Dorff is kind of a big actor who every once in a while does something interesting, and you're like, wow, Stephen Dorff's going to put it together and start making real movies. And then he doesn't.
No.
And it just doesn't happen. He was in Sofia Coppola's last film, which I liked.
It's the best thing he'll ever do.
Yeah, that was the best thing he'll ever do. Break is essentially a ripoff of Buried. And here Stephen Dorff plays he's a government agent who gets stuck in the trunk of a car, and all he's got is a CB radio. And this was directed by a TV guy named Gabe Torres. And you know what? When you direct a movie that's all about a guy in a car, it's hard because you've got to make it visually interesting to sit in a trunk of a car for X number of minutes. You got to find different angles and different ways of yes. And the thing is, Torres doesn't necessarily do it. And what's even worse is that there's a whole bunch of twists at the end of the film. And when these twists start piling one on top of the other, everything that came before it starts losing credibility because the twist is just ridiculous. So this is straight to Blu-ray sort of stuff. There is some okay passages in it. I'm not saying it's a total wreck, but it's ultimately not a good thriller. You're better off with Buried. Also, we have another bad movie called On the Inside. On the Inside has a good cast. Includes Nick Stahl, Olivia Wilde, and the Iranian woman Shorshi Aghdashloo.
Shorey Aghdashloo, because I was on the AFI Shorts jury with her.
Exactly.
Years ago.
Lame. Anyway, Nick Stahl.
She's a lovely lady.
I'm sure she is. Yeah. And a good actor.
Yeah.
Anyway, Nick Stahl plays this guy who's committed to to the loony bin because he's insane and he murdered somebody. And while in the loony bin, he has to deal with all sorts of people who are in there, and he's transferred to a security prison where he meets a beautiful bipolar, like the hottest bipolar inmate you'll ever see in a woman's prison.
There you go.
And what they sort of do together, and it's not very good. And I don't know why Olivia Wilde's doing this film because she's kind of on the cusp. She can go either way. Olivia Wilde can go either way. Cowboys and Aliens didn't work out for her, but she's making the move to film. Cowboys and Aliens not a bad choice to make. It's not a bad movie to sign on to. Who knew what the final product would be? But so she could go either way. I could see her on high-end cable. Unfortunately, I don't know if she's going to make it as a big screen actress. But one way to send her back to TV is watching On the Inside.
Totally,
because it's not very good.
Derek Jarman, certainly an acquired taste. Not everybody likes his aggressively underground British indie way of making movies, but he did basically give us Tilda Swinton. And if so we're going to talk about Sebastian in a future week as soon as we get our fingers on that. But for the time being, we just got the new Kino Lorber release on DVD and Blu-ray of The Last of England. And The Last of England is Derek Jarman, for those who don't know, died of AIDS not too many years after, what is about late 90s when he died of AIDS?
Sure.
And Blue was his last film, which is basically just him talking over a completely blue screen, one of the most aggressive avant-garde self-eulogies you will ever see. And when he made The Last of England, you could tell that there was already a detachment. This is sort of his underground cry, his primal scream about what he thinks England is becoming. And whether or not you agree with him, you don't have to sort of share his social or his political views to appreciate that this is a very, very singular achievement, a unique, aggressive, very kind of combination of commercial sensibilities and avant-gardism. He's a singular filmmaker and a very difficult guy to describe, but a very easy guy to admire, and certainly one of the most acute visions ever to put their thoughts and feelings on film. So that being said, The Last of England is absolutely a must-watch on Blu-ray. Stars Tilda Swinton, of course, who is always his muse. And it's out on Blu-ray and on DVD, but the Blu-ray just is so much grittier, and it captures so much more of the intensity of what he's trying to say. You really, really have to watch this. It's it's got poetic quotations in it, and it's just really, really an intense and almost hypnotic film. So And you can tell this is a guy who quite likely, if he doesn't know that he's going to die, he certainly he feels it on some level, and you feel it as well. So it's a really intense, very powerful film.
Oh, wait, I'm going to go out on a limb and recommend something no one's ever heard of. This is a film called They Made Me a Fugitive. They Made Me a Fugitive is a really interesting 1947 thriller, and it's a British film. It stars Trevor Howard, and check this for a one-liner. It's about Trevor Howard plays this black marketeer who tries to leave the black marketeering business when his boss starts trading in drugs. And so he tries to leave the business. The boss doesn't buy it, so the boss sets him up frames him for murder. And he goes to prison. He escapes from prison, and then he gets set up again. And really, that's like the first half hour of the film. So it's very twisty, and it's very cool, and it's very noirish, and you're totally going to dig it. And Kino has, as usual, knocked it right out of the park with a terrific Blu-ray. I don't know where they got the print from, but it's a decent print, and the restoration was funded by the British Film Institute, and you can't beat that. So I like this film. It's a really cool little British noir-y thing, and it's got lots of twists and turns, and it's got a great central performance from Trevor Howard, who I always liked, and it's good stuff. It really is good stuff. It's directed by this guy Alberto Cavalcanti, who directed Nicholas Nickleby, one of the many film versions of Nicholas Nickleby.
Yeah.
And I like this film. They Made Me a Fugitive, which was known as something else. It was, it used to be called I Became a Criminal. I think They Made Me a Fugitive was the original title. Either way, it's kind of the same thing, kind of the same sentiment. But anyway, They Made Me a Fugitive. Check it out on Kino, Blu-ray. It's good looking. It's a cool little twisty, fun, noir, murder, mystery, frame setup thing, and I think you'll dig it. Totally dig it. I liked it.
Lovely.
They Made Me a Fugitive.
All right, Mark, with that, we are out of time.
What?
Yes. Yes, we are. We're out of time. We will be back next week. In the meantime, if you want to ask us any questions, hit us up at gods@digigods.com. You can send us your audio questions. We will read them in our VoxBox segment, play them, and respond to them. And with that, we will leave you be as we go out to the mellifluous tones of the theme of Star Trek: The Next Generation.